Your deep dive into the forces shaping governance, policies, and power. From the halls of government.
You were there. I was not there. Check the record. Wait now. You were there. I was not there.
To the voices of the people.
We are suffering. This suffering is too much. It's too much. Look at the students. There's no job. They're feeling school. There's no job for them.
We analyze the undercurrents, expose the intrigues, and break down the narratives that define our democracy. Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki delivering razor-sharp analysis, and Ebuka Franklin and Chisom on the question wheel, driving the conversation. We bring you the most compelling discussions on governance, policies, and power plays. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay ahead. The Polity, every weekdays at 9:15 a.m. Exclusive on Udala 104.7 FM Onitsha.
So yesterday, the European Union, ECOWAS, and even China gave their words saying that they support Nigeria as a sovereign nation and as such do not support America invading in any way, in salvation of any group or in a bid to save anybody. Nigeria is a sovereign nation and should be allowed to take care of her own affairs. And also yesterday, further reports concerning the readiness of INEC to carry out a free, fair and credible election in 2 days' time, speaking about November 8, 2025 here in Anambra State, in Oka, Anambra State. Yes, during that stakeholders engagement, Professor Joash Amkwito said INEC is ready. All stakeholders need to collaborate for a free, fair and credible election. And all of emerging developments, speaking about the People's Democratic Party, where quoting Ibado or your state has said that the party can go ahead and have its national convention, not forgetting the fact that the party is presently in shambles, a party where the national chairman was even suspended over the weekend. All of those developments we get to take a look at on today's edition of the Polity. Good morning to you and welcome. I am Chisom Chinedu. Analyst Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki is here. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Chisom Chinedu. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, in Anambra. Good morning, in Onitsha. Wherever you are listening to us from, it's always a pleasure. Odugukwano. I don't know how many days away. Today is Wednesday.
Roughly 48
and then
hours away.
Campaigns ends tomorrow. Everything about campaign ends midnight tomorrow. So by Friday, everybody will definitely start getting to his polling booths, areas, and get ready. Just like we know very well, it's going to be Anambra decides. So it is getting close, it's drawing near, and who would do the best to make sure that it's a transparent process? We thank God Almighty for His mercy and for Him to make everything possible. Without Him, nothing would have been possible. You're welcome.
You're definitely welcome. We go first to tell you what the front pages of the papers say. And right after that, we'll dive into making sense of some of these developments. On our desk this morning, we have the Nation newspaper, there is Vanguard, the Punch, and the Guardian newspapers. And starting with the Nation, the banner headline here is Federal Government, Nigeria will come out stronger from CPC label crisis. The rider here, China, EU, ECOWAS, no religious coloration to countries' insecurity. Also, Ibado court to case PDP's planned convention. Damagum petitions INEC, IG over Anyangu's suspension, invasion of Secretariat. Otedola, Tinubu's 15% import tariff marks bold step towards $1 trillion economy. Judge orders Kanu to file defense today. or be deemed to have waived rights. That's on page 3. If you remember, Nnamdi Kanu said he's going to be his own defense attorney. So he's going to be defending himself. And the last time he was called up, he said he needed time to go through his case file. And right after doing that, he said that from every information available to him, there was no need for him to be defending anything because he has found no charge really against him. And so he has to either make that strong enough or lose the right to self-representation. That's what a judge has said. On the Vanguard newspaper, Trump, why we reject U.S. threat on Nigeria. That's coming from China. And of course, there are writers. U.S. lawmakers blast Trump, says threatening military action against Nigeria irresponsible, reckless. Religious extremists plotting to divide Nigeria. FG raises alarm, insists no genocide against Christians. Senate to discuss Trump's comments with executive arm. Genocide claim divisive, dangerous for nations' cohesion. That's ECOWAS saying that on page 27 of the Vanguard newspaper. And then China rejecting US's threat on Nigeria on page 5. Top banks rank 4.1 trillion naira profit in top banks record 4.1 trillion naira profit in 9 months. That's on page 19. Alleged terrorism. I have no case to answer. Let me go. Kanu on page 11. Strike. We've met ASU's demands. That's the federal government speaking now. Court clears PDP to hold national convention in Ibadan. That's on page 9. The writer. Party petitions IGP over alleged violent takeover of Secretariat. Obaseki Kapeto Pablo denies 600 billion naira debt. Others on page 12. Troops kill Boko Haram terrorists during attack on military base in Borno. That's on page 13. Budget deficit. Tinubu seeks fresh 1.15 trillion naira domestic loan as debt hits 152 trillion naira. This is on page 20. And on page 6, DSS dismisses 115 personnel. And Nigeria-US diplomatic crisis. Blame APC foreign policy. Benga Hashim on page 9 calls for post-Tinubu national security and foreign policy architecture. Quite interesting. Post-Tinubu. What a way to put it. But we go over to tell you what the other stories on the front pages say. Now we go to see what's on the Punch. 15% tariff. Nigerians to pay 1 trillion naira extra for petrol yearly. That's on page 29. Few marketers oppose petrol price increase. $10 backs Tinubu's 15% tariff amid inflation concerns. NNPC eyes 20% stake in Dangote refinery on page 30. Lagos policemen treated as like criminals, says tech workers on pages 4 and 5. Senate receives Tinubu's request for 1.15 trillion naira loan, and that's on page 30. And going further, a Wike kicks as Oyo court lifts PDP convention ban. Find this on page 7. And U.S. eyes religious prosecutors trial. China backs Tinubu on page 2. Now, these are the stories you'd find on the Punch newspaper. Let's see what the Guardian says now. Senate probes rail derailments as new loans contract debt stare or cost stare on page 6. Dambazal blames police for Boko Haram insurgency on page 9. Tinubu declares emergency in police training institutions on page 8. Natasha, immigration differ on passport seizure on page 9. Trump's threat. EU, ECOWAS, China back Nigeria as Senate moves to liaise with FG. This is on page 6. Court gives Kanu till tomorrow to defend terrorism charges or waive rights. That's on page 8. Police Commission warns against malfeasance in Anambra polls on page 8. Investors unsettled lose 858 billion naira in market sell-offs on NGX on page 20. PDP secures court order to proceed with national convention on page 4. Troops repel Boko Haram attacks in Borno, kill terrorists on page 4. FG orders varsities, others to publish yearly financial reports from Q1. That's on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. So we're going to definitely begin the conversation from home, Tony. This is like not to dwell on what has been said or not said about the elections, but we are just about 48 hours away. Hopefully by 7 a.m. on Saturday. Okay, let's give it an approximation of say 60 hours from now. We expect that by 7 a.m. on Saturday, all election materials are going to be at the polling units. And Professor Josh Anquetor has said a lot of things. The police has said a lot of things. There's going to be no neutral ground. But let's speak to the masses, because it is actually a thing of great concern. And I rather say it's something that we should keep talking about till the southeast region, till Anambrarians pick up. The voter apathy in this region, in the southeast, calls for great concern. Hovering around 15 to 20%, that's a really big flop. According to Ampetor, there's been over 2 million registered voters accredited, about 20-something thousand removed from the list for double registration and other issues. But let's speak to the over 2 million people who are qualified to vote on Saturday. Let's speak to them. Let's encourage them to come out on Saturday and vote.
The truth remains that we must first and foremost find out what causes this voter apathy. Is one thing, because you have to identify a problem and look towards solving the problem. Identification of a problem for me has always been 50% of solving the problem. So it's important. What are the causes of voters apathy? One, it is not just in Anambra State as we have always muted. It is everywhere in Nigeria. There is voters apathy in Nigeria.
Isn't that of the southeast of greater concern? Because I think we have the least figure actually.
Of course, if you look at southeast is just like you said, a very big concern. And we have known very well that there are factors that usually cause this voters apathy. And one of them, I have always said, it has to do with the transparency of the system. And we saw what happened in the last election, where many Nigerians had thought that it would be quite different from other elections we've had. But it ended up the way others had always ended up. So for us here, we must deal with factors that causes voter apathy. And one of those factors has to do with the system itself. People believing that their votes do not count. So once we are able to do with that, normalcy will gradually return. And situations where issue of insecurity brings fear in people, because most people who go out to vote, some will tell you, I don't want to go and die. For them, they see election as a war zone, a do or die affair. Is there a way we can make our election to be free of militarization?
By militarization, what exactly are
when
you
we talk about
hinting at?
militarization, we are talking about heavy deployment of security.
The police alone has 45,000 men on ground.
And that's the point we are making here. Military will come, police will come as if we are facing war.
But that didn't start without any smoke. If it's a fire, it didn't start without any smoke. If our elections were carried out with every sense of freedom, every sense of fairness, I doubt we would have any need to deploy that manner of security personnel to the field. So it is one thing for us, yes, to be militarizing our elections. Don't you think something brought about that?
That is the point. The politicians, most times, they are the culprits. When you go all out during campaign, you make all manner of insightful rhetorics, promising all manner of things that would happen if things do not go your way. Just like we said yesterday, during the 2015 campaigns, we saw what many of them were saying.
Including a one-time sitting president.
Of course, baboons and monkey with sucking blood.
People will go back in body bags.
How do you expect people to come out when you say that baboons and monkeys will be sucking blood? They will better rather don't come out because they value their lives. So it is important that we look at some of these factors, and I've mentioned a few of them. And I can tell you, there are so many of them. And when people lose trust in the electoral process, where we have had historical cases of rigging, manipulation of results, and compromised collection processes, when people see politicians declared winners regardless of popular choice, faith in democracy diminishes everywhere you take it to the world. And when you also look at poor governance and broken promises, look at during electioneering campaigns, it's all about promises. How many of these politicians keep to their promises if they are given the opportunity to govern the state or be elected into the office they're seeking? People will tell you it is just their usual business. Are they not going there to steal our money? What are the checks? See, let me say this. Governance in Nigeria is a luxury. Yes, some will tell you it's not easy for you to be this, for it is luxury. Why is it luxury? Let's take, for instance, some state executives. Many of them are emperors. They have immunity. You can prosecute them. You can do anything against them. You cannot even charge them against any crime while they are in the office. That is a kind of an imperial system of governance. Take that for instance. And then you also bring the issue of security votes, which they account to nobody. They will make it in such a way that it will be appropriated. Once it is appropriated, they call it contingency votes, security vote, and other names they can describe it with. And when you have a pool of such funds, let's assume 1 billion every month as security votes, and with that you can do anything you want to do. See, it is luxury.
So what you're basically saying is that the perks of our offices, our public offices, are so juicy, and politicians will do just about anything. The whole do or die affair culture we have with elections, that's the reason why it happens. And that in turn breeds militarization of our elections. So while we are here now, what is the way out?
And let me also name other factors that contribute to voters' apathy, and then we talk about the way out.
All right then.
Because if you look at situations where you have economic hardship, people are preoccupied with survival, going to the market to acre something for the day. And they're not talking about election. Election for them becomes secondary. It is not primary. When people talk about survival, how do they survive the hardship? Many Nigerians, particularly in urban areas, use election days to, earn daily income. They travel home. They try to stay away. For them, they must talk about survival. Also, you must bring issue of logistical failures by INEC. Exactly what happened in last election, when you have late arrival of materials, malfunctioning of beavers machine, and also poor organization at polling stations. Many voters will even turn up, they will still go back. At the end of the day, they will not vote. I've seen people who have come out to vote and they wait for an hour, 30 minutes, materials have not arrived. The next, they will turn back, they will go home, they will say, oh, what am I even getting? I have tried to come out. They said that we should come out. Even in our church, they told us to come out. I've come out. And you can see these people are not serious. They will brandish this thought that INEC is not serious because of the late arrival of these materials. And sometimes the queuing hour will be so long. especially if the voting is during the hot season. And we must also look at voter education, because a large number of citizens do not even understand the importance of voting or how their votes influence governance and government policies. They don't even understand those things. They don't even understand the...
Do you think the voter education you spoke about, Tony, should form crux of what we do when we campaign?
In fact, remember, it is the duty of the people that are vested with the powers to educate the populace on this, and it must be done in the language they understand. It must be communicated to them, and they must see some pragmatic developments as a result of that. If you tell somebody that, do you know that if you vote now, your vote would help influence this, influence that, you ask, how? What about my brothers that have voted? What about their votes? How have their votes been able to influence this or that? So there must be some level of credence to such education. They will be able to hold on to something and have practical examples and take-homes. So there are so many things we can talk about. The issue of vote buying and monetization of politics, when election is reduced as a bazaar, cash exchanges, some honest voters feel alienated based on their morality, based on their perception. I won't
Feels
get
demeaning to
I
them.
won't get involved. Yeah, they're doing this. Not me. And also, you look at lack of internal democracy in political parties.
But isn't that even a self-sabotaging kind of mindset?
But that's it.
I mean, the fact that you fear that people are being bought to vote for the political party, you only own one vote. Exactly. So you should just do what you want with the one vote that you own.
That is what the voter education...
I don't care about what other people do with theirs.
It is perception. See, many people don't know that perception is stronger, vocal, and powerful than reality. Perception is very powerful. So you must start dealing with that perception. Like you said, wouldn't the person know this or that? Voter education will play a role in that angle. It's important. We can go on and on. And we have seen poor communication. But the most critical has to do with security and the confidence in the electoral system. These are the two major reasons why we've had voter apathy from time to time. And also, if you look at different elections we've had in the country, in 2010, we had about 1.8 million registered voters in Anambra State. 16% turned up. And then if you also look at 2013, that was, I think, 25% turnout, I know. And then 2017, 21%. The last election, we recorded 10% voter turnout.
That's a shame.
And we had 2.4 million registered voters, 2,466,608 registered voters. Do you know how many people that came out to vote?
So 10% means we had not more than 240,000 people voting.
249 people we had number.
49,000.
That is just that. Deciding the fate of 2.4 million registered voters. That's one of the least we have recorded. But in 2017, when we had about 2.06 million registered voters, 448,711 came out to vote. That is about 21%.
Still very low.
Very low.
For a country that has practiced democracy for the longest time, and for a state that has, I mean, Anambra State was created under democratic rule, 1999. Right?
Yeah.
And so for a state that was created under democratic rule, does it mean that a child born in 1999 is approaching 30, if I'm not mistaken?
Exactly.
Right? 1999 should be around 24 years old. Right, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure I don't mix it up mathematically. Or 26 years old.
Somebody born 1999.
26 years old.
26 years.
26 years old. So it's expected that we should have gone above certain things, and one of them should be this voter apathy. And I also think the people need to know that when you stay on the side of I don't vote because I don't think my vote is going to count, you are not hurting the persons who are on the ballot.
Okay.
Yes, you are not hurting the persons who are on the ballot. You are not hurting the federal government. You are hurting yourself. Because at the end of the day, the people who vote decide who makes decisions that would affect you. So if you think that the way taxation is going in the state, you do not like it, or you like it, go to the polls and be for or against.
Exactly.
If you think the way things are going, you are not comfortable, the only way you can make a change is not by declaring Offensala Day on Saturday.
No, there's nothing like Offensala again.
It is not by going to the street to play football. It is by going to that polling unit close to you and casting your vote for your desired candidate. And we've been preaching this message from the time that we talked about updating the voter register. People were asked to go and maybe change their location or register if they have not registered. We saw what the turnout was like. And I think in the ranking, Oyo State was topping for quite a while. I'm not quite sure which state now, but there was a particular state topping for quite a while. And people were asking, before you say it is Ojoro, see the numbers. They are coming out to register. What is happening? All right. So if you really want the change, you need to be instrumental.
Definitely, it's just part of what we've been preaching here. Is our evangelism. It's part of our gospel, and we have been preaching this. You have to get involved. Things are changing radically, and before you know it, we'll be in era. Because sometimes you'll start with, digital era, from digital era to smart era, from smart era to the era of internet of things. People don't understand the procession. Before now, it was a manual ways of doing things. I'm telling you the way things are in the world. From manual, you digitize. From digitization, you get to smart level, where these objects can do so many things at the same time. That is smart level. Then you have that of internet of things. And when you have internet of things, you have these physical objects that are smart in nature, sharing data, talking to themselves, doing so many things even without being prompted. You can imagine situation where in a farm you have sensors all around the soil. The soil will tell you when it needs water. It will tell you when it needs sunlight. The plant you have cultivated will be telling you when it needs sunlight. If the sunlight is too much, it relates to you that the sunlight is too much.
I think it's the sensors being able to sense it actually.
Internet of a thing. Internet of things. So the point is this. We can't go back to yesteryears. In fact, I don't want to say we can't go back to Egypt, because Egypt is far more better than what we have here in this country. So the adage of not going back to Egypt must be amended. I don't know how to amend it.
We just cannot go back to the Nigeria of the days of yore.
So, but the point is, please, we need to come out and vote.
We need to come out and vote.
And another thing, we must also push, because as we are calling on the people to come out, we must also find ways of demilitarizing our election system and processes.
Now that would start after this election, the militarization.
Definitely, we don't need it. Military has no role. There will be a point police will have no role. All we need to do is to deploy more of technology, make it more encrypted without any interference from anybody. People do things knowing fully well that the system cannot be tampered with. What's the essence of these police and all these people doing this, doing that? That's not needed. That's what we are aiming.
All right. Yesterday, Professor Joash Ampeter said 11 out of the 13 activities on the election timetable had been completed. Campaigns are to end midnight tomorrow. He also said 2,233 buses have been hired from the National Association of Transport Owners and the National Union of Road Transport Workers. 83 boats also hired to serve riverine areas. He said that all transport logistics with stakeholders across the 21 local government area having taking time to review them, right? Making sure that no stones are left unturned. He also stated that 69.9% of newly registered voters had collected their permanent voter cards, prompting an extension of that. Extension has already also been passed, because initially it was supposed to end last week Wednesday, but it was extended to Sunday. That's the first Sunday of this month, being the second day of November. So, uncollected cards are going to be retrieved and kept with the CBN until after the election. He also did announce that sign language interpreters would be deployed across polling units to support 3,456 registered persons with disabilities. Now, I must say this is quite commendable. He said a total number of 2,802,790 voters are captured in the final register, and 16 political parties are going to be on the ballot. So we also encourage all stakeholders, all political parties, their representatives, their canvassers to be on their best behavior. We will keep calling on them till after the election.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to call on everybody to be of good conduct, but talk is always
cheap.
Very cheap. Now, I want to say something. Mopiton was telling us about the number of vehicles hired. He didn't tell us, because I'm aware that he did say that they have also configured about 917 beavers as backup, because for those that will be malfunctioning, and he made us understand that that was actually done so that there will be, but the response time, that's the problem. It's not just about having something as backup, because we are told that 918 beavers machines will serve as backup. The problem is not having a backup. It's not about having a spare tire, but how long does it take you
before you need a spare tire?
No.
And to even access your spare tire.
One, to access your spare tire. Two, to change that very tire.
So even, you know why I was even
the response
in
time
how long it takes you to even need a spare tire. Sorry, Tony, to butt in there. If you prepare for a battle and you are ill prepared, hoping that there will be backup, that's already a problem.
Yes.
So how long does it take you before you need a spare tire?
I think the question should be, everybody going for anything, even in football matches, you have spare boots, spare tires, spare jersey,
spare balls,
everything. You have everything.
Everything
spare.
is kept.
The idea is, if there is any eventuality, you get going with the other ones. But the question is the response time, the time it takes you to get that very one, get it replaced, and keep going on.
Well, let's assume footballers have people on the bench.
Exactly. Do they have a team, a kind of a unit, backup unit, that will be on alert to serve any place that has any issue?
Absolutely.
Do they have such unit in their own setup? I don't think INEC has.
We need to answer that.
I don't think INEC has a backup unit that does quite a lot in making sure that the response time is so minimized. So if a car breaks, I don't know, because I wanted to ask this question: what kind of cars or vehicles or buses do they apply for? And I said the other day, they should make do of approaching transport companies that have good Sienna buses. Definitely, there are so many of them. You can contract 4 or 5 of them. They will bring good Sienna buses, good looking, not rickety buses, that by the time you have to remove the plug, clean the plug, put it back, and before you know it, they will tell you that, no, these things are doable. I tell you, if I'm there, there will be no more excuse of any. Okay. Definitely.
Well, I trust you.
But I don't know, but these things are not rocket science. It's all about personal interest.
Political will, Tony.
That is just that.
Political will. To change a lot of things, we need the willpower. We need to stop looking at who is going to be favored when we are docile.
Definitely.
We need to stop looking at alliances that are going to be tampered with us doing the right thing. All right. But that's it. We are hoping that at the end of the day, we have an election that Anambrarians would be proud of, and of course would prove the metal that Professor Joash Yampito is made of, because this would show if Nigerians should go home and get ready for 2027 with strong minds. As a matter of fact, this election would prove if there's going to be more vote throughout party come 2027. If Anambrarians feel like this election didn't go well, 2027 we possibly will get less than 20%. It's possible we'd get less than 20%, and that's going to be such a shame, but we do not pray for bad things to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So we are going to quickly go over to other matters on our desk this morning, starting with the fact that yesterday, China said we are on the side of Nigeria. I'm going to take the story from the Guardian newspaper. The headline is Trump's threats. EU, ECOWAS, China back Nigeria as Senate moves to liaise with FG. The Rai does House of Reps blames contractor blockade not Trump motion for closed session. Dan Bazal, Trump's remarks plot to set up military base, or Trump's remarks plot to set up military base in Nigeria. Trump's threat to cover for America's interests, says Afenifere. South Kaduna backs U.S. action on terrorism, faults FG on insecurity. Government blames extremists for genocide claims. Global powers have rebuffed United States President Donald Trump's threat to invade Nigeria over alleged Christian persecution, warning that such claims distort the country's complex security crisis. In separate statements, the European Union, EU, Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and China cautioned against actions undermining Nigeria's sovereignty, insisting terrorism in the region targets all faiths alike. The EU maintained that religion was only one of several factors driving violence in Nigeria, and in some cases, not a determining one. And of course, Tony, I'm pretty sure that you saw the reports yesterday, and I was asking myself, at the end of the day, where is this going to lead us? I mean, aside the fact that we are spending a lot of time in response and laundering image, the president is trying to pick up things. We have service chiefs changed not long ago. Less than 2 weeks ago, or at most 2 weeks ago, we had reports of a foiled coup. We are dealing with a lot, actually.
Yeah,
there was a foiled coup, and then service chiefs were changed. Yesterday, the president declared an emergency on the state of security training colleges in the country. And it's really a shame that Nigeria, at this democratic dispensation, and where we stand in terms of insecurity, places where we should have, strong hands in security trained are nothing to write home about. And then even the ones who get trained, where they stay, I mean, look at most barracks in the country, Tony. They are in bad shape. Look at the fact that there is little or no benefit for an average soldier or even police officer who has decided to risk his life to fight for the safety of the nation. So you have less people even joining the forces. So we are talking about the fact that if you look at manpower, we are even way behind when you talk about countries that are our size.
Yeah.
You talk about the fact that our colleges are not stable, security training colleges. You talk about the fact that funding is a problem. Yesterday, the new chief of army staff said it himself. Funding is a problem. We talk about the fact that our weapons are not sophisticated enough to deal with internal terrorism. Not to talk of what we have infiltrating from outside, like the likes of Lakurawa and the one that we most recently acknowledged their existence and entrance into the country. And so all of these matters on our desk, China has said, let Nigeria manage her issues as a sovereign nation. The European Union has also said that, and ECOWAS has also said that. Do you see the American president listening to the voice of reason? And of course, the Nigerian government, what do you expect the government should do now to stamp its feet to show that we are working to rid the nation of insecurity outside of the plenty talks going on from different media aides to the Senate, all of them in a bid to answer? I mean, actions should actually speak louder than words, Tony.
Just like you said, actions should speak louder. Forget all these rhetorics. I don't want to reduce this to the rhetorics of Asari Dokubo saying that let US come, we fight them.
Who is Asari Dokubo in the scheme
And then
of
I
things
looked
anyway?
at Asari Dokubo. When he was climbing or when he was moving down the stairs, he was being held by some people. This is the man that says let US come. No, but that's true. I saw the video.
Asari Dokubo is, I mean,
But
the
that's
fact that
very-
the man's size is a problem.
So now you look at Femi Fani-Kayode and those people. Now, let me say this. What US is doing, if you go by international law, it is 100% wrong. Let's be
Absolutely.
honest. Nigeria is a sovereign nation. And being a sovereign nation, you should allow it to handle its internal affairs. But US, over the time, they have not obeyed international laws for their selfish reasons. Every country in the world is selfish. Every country in the world is selfish. And whenever they have international engagement, they first put their interest first. And that tells you how selfish they are. US has, over time, let me say this, They have invaded or militarily intervened in about 20 countries in the world for different reasons, either invasion or military intervention. And we know each country that either invaded or militarily intervened, that country will no more be the way it used to be. We saw what happened in Afghanistan. They invaded Afghanistan in response to the September 11 terrorist attack. We saw what happened. That was in 2001. In 2003, they invaded Iraq because of alleged possession of weapons of mass destruction and supposed links to terrorism, which they founded. In fact, nothing was discovered. Nothing. They found nothing. I remember when they invaded Vietnam. That was around 1955 down to 1975. And the reason given was to prevent the spread of communism in Southeast Asia. More like Cold War policy of containment. And what's the business? You invading a country, Vietnam, because you want to stop the spread of communism, which you are against.
Forgive me, Tony, you might need to hold on to that thought. Okay. Let's attend to some commercials. When we come back, we'll stay on that conversation. We are still looking at tales of what it's been like with nations that we've had US intervene in their matter, however it's been painted. And so we look at what we expect if we, especially for those clamoring for their invasion, if they step into Nigeria's case. Do stay.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Ụwa izu oke o, mana dịka nwafọ Naija nwoke maọbụ nwaanyị ebe ugbu a, ị kwesịrị ime onye na-akpọ gị n'ekwentị. Ohere na-abịa so naanị otu ugboro, mana nke bụ ezigbo ajụjụ dị na ya bụ ị ga-adịkwa na njikere. Ekwekwala ka ohere ọzọ ganarị. Lee anya otu kọlụ ziri ezi nwere ike ịgbanwe ndụ gị. Tinye Truecaller app n'ekwentị gị tata, mara onye na-akpọ gị. Hụ na ịtụfughị ohere ịnweta otu kọlụ ahụ nwere ike ịgbanwe ihe niile. Truecaller, za ezigbo oku.
There is one real estate called Higher Ground.
Higher Ground Estate Limited is a real estate company with a difference, working together as a community and growing together like one family. We have land in all the eastern states of Nigeria, Ala Igbo, Okasi Delta State, Eboto Rute. Higher Ground Estate Limited nefi sa nanya ime acquire properties. Ain Nigeria Jeru ni semmeni. We have two titles when you come to documentation. 1. Registered survey plan. 2. Deed of conveyance. Higher Ground is a good place to invest, for we have a high level of return on investment, ROI. We also do land banking and estate management. Our head office is located at number 59 Orifite Street, Awada Obosi, and number 5 Frank Omare Street, opposite High Court, GRA, Asaba Delta State. You can call us on 0806 373 4641. Higher Ground Estate Limited, going higher every day.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
So, Chani, before we went on that break, you were trying to give us a rundown of what it's been like for nations that the United States have, would I say, interfered in their internal affairs in the past.
Just like I was actually saying before we went for that very break, and I was trying to let everyone know that US over time had invaded or militarily intervened in about 20 different countries for different selfish reasons. And these are countries that are sovereign in nature, and in all of these, other countries after that will play the usual politics. And I think, letting you know what happened in Vietnam. How can you invade Vietnam because you want to stop the spread of communism? That was the sole reason. But I thought what the people of Vietnam did was unusual, because over 58,000 US troops were killed. I don't want to tell you how these troops were killed. There was major anti-war protests, eventually US withdrawal and communist victory, because those people were united in this fight.
Wait, who called them? I mean, this is why I asked. In the case of Nigeria, there's been this rhetoric around the killings in Nigeria, painting it as a religious thing. It didn't start with the Tinubu administration, let's be clear. As far back as 2012, the killings in several reports were linked to a religious thing. Christians being killed, you talk about the statistics available to the media or the public, you find out that we have more number of churches being burned or bombed. We have church attacks. The Owo attack is there as a living proof. We have people being killed, right? Randomly in Zamfara, in Borno, in Jigawa, yes. But when you look at the clusters, Christians seem to be affected the most. So there is a locus. When you mentioned the case of communism, I was just wondering, when the people complaining about that,
they were not complaining. I'm just trying to let you know how flimsiest the excuse could be. You know, when people say, why would US do this? Why they have done something more shallow than what you are talking about. You know, they go for their interest. They don't respect boundaries. They don't respect sovereignty. They don't respect anything. That's the US for you.
So do you believe that they are going to listen now that the EU, ECOWAS and China have said, you know what, mind your business?
Yes, because if you look at it, because from the look of things, EU, European Union is an umbrella body. And many of their members are part of NATO. Remember, NATO was formed in the year 1949 to ensure collective defense, meaning an attack on one member is considered an attack on all. That is the Article 5. If US invade Nigeria, let's assume EU is supporting us, right? And US, let's assume.
Assumption. I like the fact you are hinging on the assumption.
Yeah, let's assume. And probably US invades Nigeria as they have threatened, and you start to fight the US. EU will not even support you in fighting US because many of their members are allies to US. They are members of NATO. And Article 5 of NATO, just like I've said, an attack on one member is an attack on every member.
So that leaves Nigeria at the receiving end.
So we should not be carried away by all this support being dished by different countries. China, of course, we have economic partnership and economic ties with them. Fine and good. And they have spoken. But China's statement will remain only in statements. You cannot be accompanied with any action. Much they could do will be to give Nigeria, loans in order to acquire more weapons if that brings up. But the point I'm trying to make here is this: we must take this US threat serious. They are wrong. US is wrong. We must accept it. I have to tell you why they are wrong if you go by international law. But I've said it many times here, they do not obey international law. Are you aware that US is not even a signatory to International Criminal Court in Hague? They are not signatory to it. And somebody called me yesterday from Germany, and he told me, my friend, that the news is everywhere in Germany. The news of US threat everywhere, every news channel in Germany is broadcasting
in the world.
So he was telling me about the palpable tension fears Nigerian community in Germany are having, asking me what is going on. And then I put it to him. He was saying, can't the president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, find a way to go to the United States of America to talk with President Trump? And he said there are people that are of the view that if he goes in there, he could be arrested. But he was of the view that, does our president, doesn't he have diplomatic immunity? And I remember I narrated what happened to Omar Bashir, to him. And I said, Omar Bashir went to South Africa, Sudan. At that point, is still a sovereign nation. But their president, who has been indicted by ICC anyway, went to South Africa, but there has been arrest warrant issued by ICC. And he was nearly arrested in South Africa, even as a sitting president. So I was of the view that Tinubu will not play that kind of game. He knows that anything can happen. What if Nigeria is a signatory to ICC? What if somebody pushes and then there is warrant, and then it comes into US in US soil? US will make sure and perfect that. See, I was trying to let people know and understand international politics.
I'd also like us to make this clear. Where does this keep the average Nigerian? Because a lot of persons from yesterday, let America invade. Where does this, what are the implications for the average Nigerian? And now that EU, ECOWAS, and China have said they're on the side of Nigeria, but you just reiterated that you cannot trust the United States government and the president to listen because, I mean, Trump does what he wants, sadly so.
Yeah.
What does this portend for me as an average Nigerian?
And for me, just like I said earlier on, if US invade Nigeria, two things would happen. Either Nigerian armed forces fight back or remain calm. If they fight back, it is war. If they fight back, it is a full-blown war. But if they come to fight terrorists and possibly
collaborate,
they are not coming for collaboration because you did not invite them.
Nice. So
you can only collaborate with somebody you have invited. They are coming on their own, and when they come on their own, is invasion.
But they would have to, because I've been trying to piece this together.
Yeah.
So when they come into Nigeria, they won't register their presence with any authority. They just swing in and do what
that is the way they have done in other countries. You know, I was trying to let you know they have done this before now to many countries.
They
did in Syria, they did in Somalia, they did in Haiti, they did in Bosnia and Herzegovina, they did in fact Serbia, Kosovo, they did in Lebanon, they did in Dominican Republic. They have done in many countries.
So what they are saying,
even in Cuba, they have done in many countries.
They are not coming in for collaboration. They are coming
That's
in for
not
invasion.
what they told you they are coming in for.
Interesting.
They are telling you they are coming to fight terrorists militarily in their own way, in their own style.
Guns are blazing.
And that is the way the president said it. And not just that. If you try to resist or to restrict them or in any way to stop them, and they will resist your resistance, and that will be a full-blown war, which will not be good for us. But if they come in to do these things and we keep quiet, it will be a slap on our sovereignty. A slap, because
so what
the armed forces
is the way out?
If you ask, is diplomatic solution.
What are we doing for
diplomatic
solution now to come?
I think, look at what happened at the Senate today. It's embarrassing. From what happened, from what we are told, Ababio started by saying that there was this online publication or online video circulating where he was allegedly quoted to have said,
he was like debunking that.
I'm just trying to let you know the undercurrent that US should respect themselves. I'm paraphrasing it. US should respect themselves. Nigeria is a sovereign nation. They cannot just come here and dictate for us. They cannot do this. He said he has he's nobody to answer Donald Trump. Joe Barrow was telling him that, do you know who you are? You are the Senate president. You have the right to speak. He said no.
Not in that manner. I mean, the fact, if you even listen to that, you know that
you are not seeing the drama behind it. You are just trying to rationalize what happened. Forget the rationalization. I'm just looking at the drama. Mabio is trying to watch the hands of Pontius Pilate.
If not you,
do you want them to sanction him and ban him? Do you know properties he has in US? He said, I did not make that statement. Jubilee was telling him, you can even make it and nothing will happen. He said, Jubilee, no.
Yeah.
I have nobody to answer Trump. I cannot respond to Trump. I cannot answer him. No, I did not say it. In fact, I have petitioned DSS. I have petitioned police. I have petitioned EFCC to look into this. I did not answer Trump. I can't make such statement. Even when the deputy Senate president was telling me, you are the Senate president. You have what it takes. You can make that statement. He said, I did not, and I don't want to make. Please, Jobren, you can go on and make your own. I'm not going to make it. Can you imagine? So that tells you.
If you ask me, Tony, that's sense, speaking. That's the sense of, because I don't sometimes. I think it was in Chinua Achebe said from the ruins or from the house of a coward, you point at the ruins of the house of a brave man.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not about proving that you can or even having the ability to.
Yeah.
What sense is there in you doing that? I think that's what Bible was trying to say.
He was saying,
he understands that there is no sense in him sounding that way.
And then because people have sounded that way. And
it's laughable.
And then it's laughable. And many of them may not have stake in US. Babio knows his stake. And they will not want to be put in such confrontational manner. He said he's nobody. He's nobody to answer Trump. Now I know he's nobody. Then if it were Natasha, he becomes somebody.
I knew you were going there.
No, he said he's nobody to answer Trump. I cannot answer Trump. When he was reminded that he's the Senate president, he said no. But that is, by the way,
can I see all your fingers? Are they equal?
The drama,
Natasha.
The drama was something else yesterday. But that's by the way. And secondly, China, we must appreciate some of their support, there's no doubt. And they have also maintained that Nigeria is a sovereign nation and has what it takes to solve its internal problems. And Nigeria has also deployed that to China. Remember, China, Taiwan, Hong Kong. These two nations are not sovereign nations. They are under China. So any attempt for you to designate any of these nations, either Taiwan or Hong Kong or Tibet, the people of Tibet, the Tibetans, these are countries China is sitting on top, sitting on their neck. And any attempt by anybody, by anywhere, through any means to designate this or to accord them any form of respect, China will, and Nigeria has respected that. You can't go to anywhere in Abuja and see Taiwan embassy, or you can't see even Hong Kong embassy. If you want to go to Hong Kong, it's through China. You go to Chinese embassy. If you want to go to Taiwan, so Nigeria has respected that on the side of China and has also spoken for China when it matters. So China is also doing so for Nigeria, so it's expected. But I want to let everybody know that if it breaks up now, or if it starts, China cannot do any other thing. They would just be on the sideline watching both of you, and they can give you some material support, but they will not come in. So it's not about them giving us support. It's not about EU. Just like I said, that EU is even tricky. Many of them are in NATO. Many of their members are in NATO. So I have told you about Article 5. So what we need as a way forward is diplomatic solution. It's unfortunate we don't have diplomatic missions headed by high commissioners and above. I said this since yesterday. But there are things we can still do. There are things. People may not see Trump in Washington over certain reasons or fears or perceptions for whatever reason. And somebody was asking me, why hasn't the president gone to US since he became president? He has traveled to every country of the world. Why hasn't he gone to the United States of America? And in fact, the United Nations General Assembly, twice under his regime, he has sent Kachim Chatima, knowing very well that it takes place in United States of America, New York. So I gave the person the usual answer, and then the perception, and so many things which I may not be able to do here this morning. The point is, let's go in a diplomatic way, because these threats, just like I've said earlier on, I can go on and tell you so many countries this has happened, and not that we don't have what it takes to fight US, but how long will you fight them? If they come in here to do whatever they want to do, is a slap on our sovereignty. But some people are saying, can't we also use this opportunity to invite them and then look at the terms and conditions? Instead of them coming on their own without invitation, we can ask them. But people have said they can give us support, they can give us this. They have been giving us support, they have been giving us some weapons, they have been selling weapons to us, they have trained our soldiers. Yes, it's on record, they have trained our soldiers on counter-terrorism. US, yes, there are things they have done. But most times when we want them to do it, they may not do it when we want them to do it. They do it when they want to do it, or because of their own selfish reasons. That's how they do their things. When you may need it most, they will not answer you. But as a result of their own selfishness, they may try to come when they want to come, when it is more convenient for them. That's US for you. So I remember when Jonathan was calling on them to give us arms to fight insecurity, they cited Leahy law, saying there are human rights violations in Nigeria. We can't give you our arms when you are violating human rights, saying that it is part of the law. But there were countries they sold the same arm to. Israel violating. How many times have they talked about Israel violating human rights? Israel has killed, Hamas killed civilians, bombed everywhere. How many times have you heard US talking about human rights violation in the Gaza war? They will not cite it because of their selfish interest. But if it has to do with Nigeria, because also their selfish interest, they will cite one thing or the other why they will not do what they want to do, or why they want to do whatever they want to do. US is the most selfish country in the world. That's why they always tell you America first in everything. So right, we must follow diplomatic route in solving this problem.
Okay, we keep our fingers crossed, hoping that at the end of the day, there is a diplomatic resolution to all of this. I cannot imagine myself running helter-skelter because there's been a war. The last time I had a dream about something similar, I think it's been years and I am still really traumatized whenever I remember it. I mean, people who lived the Civil War would tell you it wasn't funny, and war is never funny.
But Akpabio should also brace up. This
if Akpabio was my father, I would call him and say, Daddy, you have done well, oh. Yes, yes, please.
No problem.
Yes, please. Something must kill a man, but a man will not walk into war, will kill him by himself. So, Tony, yesterday, Oyo State High Court granted the PDP approval to proceed with the elective national convention scheduled for November 15 and 16. That's next week, Saturday and Sunday in Ibadan. The court also directed the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to attend and monitor the exercise. This was delivered by Justice A.L. Akintola, and we know where the PDP is at the moment. What do you think would happen? Are they going to have the convention? And do you think that with the factionalism the PDP is dealing with at the moment, this convention would eventually be anything to go by if it happens?
It's a fight PDP faction under Makinde has initiated against Wike. The two persons who are fighting now, Wike versus Makinde. And Wike, in his arsenal, he has his what I call the first 11, likes of Anyang, the secretary, then the national legal advisor. I think that person should be the goalkeeper in this first 11. Anyang is playing defensive, midfield. He's a midfielder, and Wike is leading the attack. And I don't know those who will be on the flanks, because you have Autumn and then Ugwanye and all the G5 members. Ibazu, these ones are maybe left fullback or right fullback. These, they are just 11. Makinde is leading the attack on the other side. And then the person playing the defensive midfield is Damagun. And he has other members. That's just it. Now, the Wike 11 got a favorable judgment from Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, where he asked PDP not to go on with the planned convention until they comply with their constitution. And I looked at some of the things James Omotosho cited or pointed out. One, you must serve 21 notice to INEC, and in other things. Remember that notice? I looked at the law. If that is not done, they are just more fine. It's one thing that would not make a convention to hold, but Omotosho was holding to his guns that you must comply with their rules. And as far as that is concerned, he stopped the planned convention. But you look at Laderon Akintola, Justice Laderon Akintola of Oyo State High Court. He made his own, I think he gave ex parte order. I realize that one has to do with judgment, the other one has to do with ex parte order. But in law, people will tell you judgment precedes ex parte order. But no matter how bad or irregular an order is, it must be vacated. It's a principle. So, conflicting orders of the court. Yes, one is judgment. Go on. That is the ex parte order from Akintola. The other one, don't go on. And if you look at it, it's a mockery for democracy. Wike is the landlord in FCT, and the FCT, the Federal High Court, is in that FCT, did exactly what Wike wanted. Makinde is the landlord in Oyo State, and the Oyo State High Court did exactly what Makinde wanted. You have power, I also have power. You think you can. For me, let me speak in a layman language. I'm just speculating. It's not that it is correct, not that it is true. But let me talk like a lay person now. You think you know judiciary in Abuja? I also know judiciary in Oyo State. Conflicting rules and orders of the courts. And that has given them green light. But we are told that this one will expire either in 7 or 14 days time. But he has adjourned till, I think, 11th of November to hear the motion on notice. So Let's see how it envelopes or let's see how it spans out. But it does not speak good. They can't postpone it. PDP should forget about 2027 and use that period to see if it can resuscitate itself like a brand new baby. I don't want to cite Greek mythology and all that, but the point remains that it is a period of fighting for survival. That's what PDP is doing. But for now, because we